Thank you. So, I don't know, like in this day and age of social media influencers and all this shit, there's like a lot of people able to give a lot of advice that I think is probably a little bit unsolicited and probably not necessarily the best advice getting around. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the advice you can hear on the internet is like really good on paper, and then you apply it in real life and it's just not translate well. So the story I'm going to tell you is related to this particular piece of advice from Instagram, and it is, do what makes you happy. Because as long as you're having fun, then everyone else will too. Yeah, it sounds good until you think about it for 3 fucking seconds, right? So I'm going to tell you a little story about the time that somebody had sex on me. Now, I have to make a big disclaimer here, okay? Big disclaimer. This thing was 100% consensual, okay? So you don't have to feel bad for me. Relax, laugh as much as you want, because I'm still here and I'm fine and everything's okay, all right? It was 100%. It wasn't good, right? Like, I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying it was consensual. It was kind of like if somebody like invited you over for breakfast, and then when you got there, they were like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. How do you like your eggs cooked? And then I was like, poached or whatever. And they're like, yeah, scrambled it is. I've already started making them. And you go, well, I'm here. I'm hungry. And at this point, I will take what I can get. And then after breakfast, they like come all over your back. I was like... So I'll give you a little background on how I met this charming man. I was out at dinner, and it was in a beautiful Italian restaurant. And it was one of those restaurants where, like, the chefs are inside windows, you know, like zoo animals, and you can watch them while they prepare your meal for you. So I was sitting right up against the window, and right on the other side of the window was the pizza chef, the pizza counter. So he was there making pizzas, and I was sitting at the window being very cute, and he was looking at me, and I was looking at him. We were flirting throughout the whole course of the dinner, and by the end of the dinner, I was like, oh my God, like, I think this might be a thing. But I'm like, how am I going to tell him that I think it's a thing or whatever? And I looked down at my plate, and I still had a bit of linguine left on my plate, and I was like, oh, I got an idea. So I wrote, call me in noodles on my plate and just held it up to the window, like with a cute smile. And he looks down at the window, and he goes like this. And I was like, with the shame, just the pure horrific shame. And then he goes, and I was like, oh, yeah, you don't have my number. Yeah, sweet. Oh, then it's on. So I wrote my number down, gave it to the waitress, and then she went inside. She looked at it, she was like, the pizza chef. Nice one. I was like, oh, this isn't the first time this is happening. So then I left the restaurant. I'm just in a hot, like, pool of shame, just going, oh, God. I went home and then ended up, like, singing karaoke, like, just trying to drown my anxiety in my own horrific singing voice until he messaged me. Once he finished his shift, he messaged me. I went to his house, and we had a lovely evening, you guys. Like, it was really nice. We chatted, we talked some shit for a while, we hooked up a little bit. It was, like, really, really good. And then we fell asleep spooning each other, or as I like to call it, the double fetal position. When spooning. At some point in the early hours of the morning, I felt him wake up behind me, right? Like, so it starts kind of moving around. I don't know if you guys have been in this position before. It's not exactly the easiest position to have sex in. So, like, we needed to change. And he's a gentleman. So what he did was take his hand and put it on the top of my shoulder and just pushed me straight forward so I was face down on the bed. And like a fucking pop-up book, he was on my back behind me. Now, I'm familiar with this position. Like, I know what happens here. Usually, the person on the top gives you a little bit of space, and then the person on the bottom, like, elevates the hips for the correct angle. He did not do that, you guys. What he did instead was put both of his legs on the outside of my legs and then squeeze them together. Yeah. So I'm laying there like a fucking pencil in a vice, and then he just starts fucking my thighs. Like I'm laying there like this, and this is happening. And I don't know if you guys know much about like physics and anatomy, but like this is not a good angle. Like I'm just saying, 1 in 4 chunks was sort of like getting kind of close to the area where sex happens. All the rest of them were just kind of, again, the general neighbor. So I'm laying there, did kind of occur to me in my head, like, is my vagina hole so gaping that the only way for him to have pleasurable sex with me is to like squeeze my trap it. Anyway, so I'm trying to be like cute and sexy, and he's just going hell for leather into my thighs, and I'm like a trapped eel. And then after a couple of confusing minutes of this, he just bends down and goes, "Baby, I don't come." Oh, he's Italian. That's the accent. "Oh, baby, I don't come." It was sort of cute. Like at this point, like basically, you've just been masturbating into my thighs, but at that moment, he chose to call me baby. It was kind of sweet, right? So it made me wonder if he was like the kind of guy that would just like treat a blow-up doll to like a 3-course meal before he lubed her up and like fucked her in the ears. He's a charming guy. So I thought, he's like, "Baby, I'm gonna come." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, go for it." And then he just took his dick out and then just cummed all over my back. I know! And this is the moment where most people are kind of like, "Ugh, shit." And I know it's a bit degrading, right? But he was a gentleman. So he jumped up, went into the bathroom, and turned on the shower for me. I don't know how many of you guys have ever got cum on yourselves and then try to wash it off with water. Anyone know what happens? They don't mix. Shane? It turns into plaster. Right? Like, so he's basically like treated me like a glorified ironing board, and now he wants to turn me into like a paper mache pinata. No thanks. If I had taken his advice at that moment and washed the cum off with it in the shower, I would have been doing the walk of shame home with like a full back cast. No thank you. So anyways, all I'm getting at, the whole moral of the story is, yeah, sure, do what you love, have fun, but maybe, like, check in with the world around you to see if they're having as much fun as you're having while you're, like, living your best life all over their back.